Hello, my name is Anna Simser. My instructional design presentation is on backward design. The objectives for today's presentation will be to explain the purpose of backward design, to identify steps to implement backward design, and to provide examples of backward design. All right, so let's get started on what actually is backward design. Backward design is curriculum design. It's a planning tool, and it is also a mindset. So the idea of backward design was first introduced by Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe in their 1998 book, Understanding by Design. Now, I am a little biased because I am an advocate of backward design planning, which is why I chose backward design for my instructional design presentation. When I started my master's degree in curriculum, Understanding by Design was one of the books that we read. So I am, as I said, a little biased because I am an advocate on backward design. So backward design in this great book, Understanding by Design, Wiggins and McJay, they make sure to explain that this is truly a mindset, and they begin their prologue with this quote from Mr. Convoy from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. To begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination, and means to know where you're going so that you better understand where you are now, so that the steps you take are always in the right direction. All right, so why backward design? The rationale. So again, it talks about clarity. If you start with the end, you understand that that is your end goal. So that the goal is for that to bring clarity when you are planning your lessons or when you are planning your units. It ensures as educators that we're preparing students for end assessments. And it really encourages teachers to see that the textbook is a means to an end. I really like how Wiggins and McTighe make sure that teachers understand that the resources should not be guiding the instruction. Oftentimes we feel like we are forced to use a specific textbook or a specific resource, but that should not guide our instruction. And backward design also works very great with different varied learning styles. There are embedded scaffolding in the learning plan. All right, so let's get into backward design and how it truly works. So backward design is made up of 3 steps, 3 stages. Number 1, identifying desired results. This is the instructional goal. Number 2, determining acceptable evidence. So this is the assessment. And number 3, that is where you get to the activities. So this is very different than other curriculum plans. You start with the goal, then you go into the assessment, how you're going to evaluate the students, and at the end you work on the lessons and the activities. So many times as educators, we want to try out a new strategy. We want to try out like a jigsaw or a gallery walk. But backward design really puts the focus on the why. What is the end goal? Before we get into the activities, what is the end goal? All right, so let's dig deeper into each stage. So stage 1, desired results or the instructional goal. So the first stage in the design process calls for clarity about the priorities. So I always like to think of this as when you have the students walking out the door, what do you want them to learn? So Wiggins and McTighe always make sure that teachers are starting with the standard, the state standard, starting with the target understanding, aka what should students know, the big ideas, what are relevant knowledge and skills. And they also ensure that teachers are taking time to review the essential questions that are related to the goal. So this is a sample lesson on a 4th grade social studies standard. So this is what stage 1 would look like. You have your understanding, your essential questions, your knowledge, and your skills. So in this area right here, the skills, this is what we would normally think of when we think of Bloom's taxonomy. So that's also embedded in the Understanding by Design platform. All right, stage 2 is the evidence. So this could be formative as well as summative. This is the assessments. What will we accept as evidence of student understanding and proficiency? So the goal in backward design planning is to think of the assessments before we plan out the activities. So assessments are created to validate that students have met the desired goals. Assessments are made right after the goals to ensure the goals are kept in mind. So right after a teacher or a designer creates the instructional goal, the next step is then how are we going to assess the goal? So you are keeping that in mind before you start looking at activities or handouts or worksheets. So this is what this would look like right here, the assessment evidence. And the idea of backward planning leaves open assessments. So you can use performance assessments, you can use multiple choice tests, you can use drawing, writing. Okay, backward design does not confine teachers to a certain type of assessment. Stage 3 is when we finally get to the learning plan, the activities. Given a destination, what's the most effective and efficient route? So the goal is for the learning experiences to enable students to reach the goals. And for backward design planning, Wiggins and McTighe, they follow the where to format. So the W, where the unit is going, hook the students, that's the H, hook the students and hold the interest. E, equip students with experiences to be able to explore. R, allow opportunities for the students to rethink and revise. Another E, allow the students time to evaluate their work. T, tailor the activities to the students' different needs and abilities. And O, make sure that the format is organized to sustain the effectiveness of the goals. So in the where to format, they're number 1, focusing on student needs to meet the desired goal. The idea is for the learning to be a process, always keeping the desired goal in mind. So this is what the learning plan would look like, the learning activities. Now, when researching backward design, I wanted to make sure to bring it back to designing online courses. In an article by Davis, Gow, and Taylor, I found great resources on how they use backward design to revamp an online hospitality and marketing course. Now, they decided to choose backward design because of its emphasis on learning outcomes, not focusing on exams or not focusing on technology. In the article, Davis, Gow, and Taylor, they touch upon how COVID-19 has created great opportunities for online courses, but that many of the teachers were afraid of the technology, that many of the teachers, they are content experts but not experts in technology, and the backward design allowed the teachers to focus on the curriculum, the craft, because backward design is truly focusing on the goals, the assessments, the activities. It's not focused on technology as the end-all be-all. So backward design is a reminder that the bells and whistles of technology should only be incorporated in the course, they directly support the learning objectives. They also made clear that backward design allowed the instructors to use a macro level view to align course components with overall goals of what the class intends to achieve. So by using backward design, they were able to tailor the hospitality and marketing course to truly focus on goals and skills that the students are going to need. And we're able to take out unnecessary activities. And just as the model suggests, the last stage is their activity. So the last stage in creating this online course became the creation of the modules. All right, so now I have 3 discussion questions. When planning lessons, do you start with goals first? What are your thoughts on planning the assessment before the activities? Have you tried this? How does backward design relate to the Dick and Carey system approach model? So when we were reading the chapters, I found it very interesting. There was a lot of focus on getting that instructional goal clear and making sure that it was something that was measurable. So this did make me think of backward design. Thank you.